Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to It's Rainmaking Time. This is Kim Greenhouse. I'm very delighted today. We have a real champion in the area of science and healing. Now, I've read her book. It's called Tuning the Human Biofield. She's the author of another book as well called Electric Body, Electric Health. She's trained thousands of people across the world to tune the human biofield with these tuning forks that she designed and manufactured. She's no stranger to business. She owned a kettle corn business, a restaurant. She backpacked across Europe. She's a one-of-a-kind. She's a mother, a wife, and a wonderful teacher. Please welcome Eileen McKusick to It's Rainmaking Time. Thank you so much for being here, Eileen.
Hi, Kim. Thanks for having me. Hi, everybody.
You're so calm that I could just relax and never have to think about stress again. How do you do it?
Lots of sound. Lots of sound. It's made me incredibly mellow. This has given me an extremely long fuse and a lot of resilience.
I went through your book with a fine-tooth comb and really enjoyed, I didn't read your other book, but I read Tuning the Human Biofield. One of the things I really appreciate about as an author and as an inventor, which you are, is that you were willing to be vulnerable to the reader about your personal issues throughout your life, things you went through as a younger child, growing up, with your parents, the whole bit. And I've seen inventors and scientists when you have a challenge or a mission to bring something through to the world, like healing the human biofield, when you'll be explaining that, the energy field of the human being. People don't want to talk about their vulnerabilities, and I found that incredibly refreshing. Why did you do it? Why did you do that?
Well, I just think it's really important to be real and transparent about who you are and why you do what you do. If I hadn't had trauma, I wouldn't have gone into healing. I probably would have gone into finance. I have really good instincts. I'm always ahead of the curve. I could have done very well in the stock market. But I was broken from a very difficult childhood and went on a journey to find the pieces and put them back together. And in that process of created some really helpful approaches in that. And they've really helped me a lot. First and foremost, my journey has really been about accessing my own potential. And I think that that's something, as somebody who's been working with clients for almost 30 years, I think that everybody knows that they have potential to be more than they are. And I think most of us are driven to find ways to unlock that potential. And so that's so much of what my work has been, is helping people to be all that they know that they are.
Well, I thought it was adorable, too, where you shared about your son, Quinn, how he taught you about the fourth phase of water.
Of matter.
That was great. Yeah, matter. There you go, fourth phase of matter.
Well, Gerald Pollack taught me about the fourth phase.
The fourth phase of water, right. We had him on, Dr. Pollack. I want to talk a little bit about, I want to go a little bit into the earlier part of your life, just a little bit, because I thought it was also profound that your mom passed away of a brain tumor and your dad passed away. And he didn't pass away of a stroke, but he had a stroke that debilitated him for years, which changed the course of your life and your mother's life. Do you want to just give a little background for the audience who often people go into the science right away of tuning the human biofield, just a little bit about that, because that informed you to do many, many things.
Yeah. I think if anybody really grows up with parents who are incapacitated in some way, it's very formative. My dad was 59. He had a massive stroke that probably would have killed most people, but he was sort of a tough old guy. But he ended up with his right side completely paralyzed, and he lost his ability to speak. He really got reverted back into infancy. And I was 10 at the time, and my mom, in the wake of all of that, had a nervous breakdown. And I was really the only one in the house who sort of remained sane. brother who was 16 started drinking, and uh, everything sort of fell apart. And I was the one who ended up being the one to hold it all together. And then, if anybody's had that kind of experience, you just kind of carry on in that way, being the one who is helping to hold it all together. In some ways, I would say that my work as a healer does come from a trauma response of a need to make sure that everybody around me is okay in order for me to be okay. That's something that I've also kind of had to work through as well. And, it was extremely formative. I really, really, really wanted my dad to get better so that my mom wouldn't have to take care of him all the time. And I think that also was a driver for me
That's hard.
in just understanding health and what it means to be healthy, and for me to avoid having a stroke myself, and help keep the people around me well and coherent, so that, we don't have to go through that. I know, in the wake of COVID, many people have had strokes and disabilities, and it's very, very hard on the caregivers. In fact, 66% of caregivers die before the people they're taking care of, and that was the case with my mom. She took care of my dad every day for 14 years, got him up, got him dressed, pushed around his wheelchair. I was pushing him around in a wheelchair, getting the wheelchair in and out of the car, all of that.
It's brutal. It's
Yeah,
brutal.
and
My
then
mom had Alzheimer's, and my dad took care of her.
yeah.
Even though there was help in the house, I watched my dad completely disintegrate, his chi, his life force, go down until after 5 years, he said, "I want to die. I'm ready to go. I'm done."
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's really hard. It's really draining of your soul. My mom wasn't good about asking for help either. She just kind of martyred her way through everything. That taught me a lot as well. But yeah, my mom got a brain tumor. She was dead within 6 weeks of being diagnosed.
Oh my God.
And then I ended up taking care of my dad for 3 years. And then I had an 8-month overlap where I had a newborn and my dad who was kind of circling the drain. And that was a lot too. But these kinds of experiences are very humbling, and when you
For
when you go
sure.
through extreme difficulty, you don't sweat the small stuff so much afterwards.
It's an incredibly life-changing experience. Um, yeah, I've done tons of research even before I knew about you, Eileen, and about the human biofield. And apparently, and I just want to bring this up in context as you explain it, apparently all of the intelligence agencies, from the Air Force, Navy, intelligence agencies, DARPA, et cetera, has been working on developing infrastructure around and about the human biofield for over 50 years. And I found out about this 2 years ago. I was including synthetic biology. I mean infrastructure connected to the human body. So when I heard about your work, I was interested in the fact that you were doing healing with it and that it was working. And that was incredibly refreshing and exciting and revealing. And so share with the audience, from your translation perspective, directly, what is the human biofield to the best of your ability?
Well, the standard definition, if you go and look it up, that the National Institute for Health came up with in 1994, is that it's a field of energy and information that surrounds and interpenetrates the human body. But as someone who's really worked directly with it for decades,
Yeah.
I've
Yes.
developed a different definition. And I've really come to see that the biofield is your body's electrical system in its entirety, that you can't separate the magnetic field from the electric current that runs through the body. They're really one and the same. And so we have an electrical system, but we're not taught about it because they really put it underground. I mean, there was an understanding that the body was electrical. The late 1800s, the early 1900s, you could buy devices for your electric health in the Sears Roebuck catalog. This is nothing new that the body is electric. But with the rise of chemical medicine, and then also the rise of the back door dealing with the electrical system, we were sort of put in a place of a pill for every problem, a very chemical, mechanical, reductionist way of looking at bodies and health and life. And so in a chemical mechanical world, if something goes wrong with your body, then drugs and surgery is the answer. And so that's the model that we've all been brought into for, I'd say, since the 40s and 50s, since the end of World War II. Uh, a fellow by the name of Robert O. Becker wrote a couple of books, in the late 70s, early 80s, a book called A Body Electric, another book called Cross Currents. And in those books, he does talk about the body's electrical system. But very few people followed up on his work. And when I started doing my research, there was not a lot about sound in the biofield. And I realized after the fact that, well, DARPA and those kinds of agencies had co-opted all of that research, all the while telling us that biofields don't exist and sound healing is nonsense.
They sequestered it, actually, so they could do their own development with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So people have been really programmed to think all of this is nonsense, but that's incredibly intentional, that you don't believe in or understand your body's electrical system. But it's actually very simple, is that your heartbeat is electric, brain waves are electric, your blood carries a charge, your nervous system. You have to have a certain amount of voltage across all membranes in your body in order for everything to function. And all of this points to electrical current running through the body. Anything that has an electric current running through it has a magnetic field around it. And the magnetic field forms the shape of a torus. So for those of you that are watching, I've got a little model of a torus, which is basically it's a sphere with a central channel down the middle. And so in this model, our body is in the middle of the torus, and then the biofield surrounds us. And I would say that the biofield is your sense of I. It is your conscious mind, your subconscious mind. I discovered it's where all your memories are stored in standing waves in the field around you. And it is also, I would go so far as to say, what we call our soul. So to me, the biofield is this beautiful juncture of science and spirituality, that your biological light, your sense of I, is also what we would call spiritual. It is undying. You can't kill light. And if you believe in reincarnation, it would appear that you take all your memories with you when you go, because they're stored in your light body. And then maybe come put on another human suit and possibly retain some of that knowledge that you've acquired in other bodies. So it's a part of you that when you die, your light goes out, right? So that's you. It's the difference between being alive and dead, is the electrical activity of your biofield.
You had so many people that you have studied and researched in your life. It was also very refreshing to see the names that you mentioned of people, and your awareness of so much research and science that was known even in the last 100 years, but didn't trickle out until, I don't know, the last maybe 10, or where it started to get into the public, and the public started to be aware that there's a this or a that the body's electric. I know that Robert O. Becker paid dearly. There were people listening to him, but it was the same people that are working on synthetic biology in the same groups. That's why it was out there, but very few people read it. With the level of electromagnetic wireless systems, from cell systems, computer systems, every form of wireless, from 5G, 6G, which, by the way, is out there. How is this? I'm sure you've thought about how this is impacting all of our personal biofields as we walk around and do life. Like, for example, I'm 90 minutes from the White House. However, when I drive into Dulles Airport, there are data centers with microwave stations in such a compact area, you can literally feel driving in the difference. It's that intense. And a lot of people live there, right? They're getting that wireless stuff. Where are you? Could you talk a little bit about your take on, we are living in a wireless society, right? So how is this impacting our human biofield in the context of staying well?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's part of the reason why there wasn't a lot of uptake on the research, because people like Elizabeth Raucher, had the Men in Black show up at their door. And so a lot of people have been reluctant to have telecom and whatever become their enemy. I've been able to talk about all of this because I don't point at anything and say that's bad. I point at us and say we're amazing. We're resilient. We're adaptive. And yes, there's no question that all of the signaling that's in the air that's man-made interrupts our own signaling. And that it definitely can have deleterious health effects in many ways. But I also have found that through pursuing electric health, which is really what this whole journey has revealed to me about, well, it's really about keeping your electrical system healthy because everything physical is downstream from that. And so my work with Biofield Tuning is all about getting your signal coherent and clear and strong. And
Can
when
you
you have a
explain the coherence? Because there's going to be people that hear the word, they think they know what it is, but not everybody is aware of that word, coherence.
Sure. The simplest definition is where everything's in order. Everything is in place. Everything's doing what it's supposed to do. When you have a symphony orchestra, everyone is playing coherently. They're all playing from the same sheet music. They're all playing in the same key and the same rhythm. If everybody in the orchestra started doing all their own thing, it would become highly incoherent, right? So our bodies are coherent systems. Everything's supposed to run in harmony and right rhythm and right relationship. And so a tuning fork produces a coherent sound. It's just a steady, coherent rhythm. So when we are continually availing ourselves to coherent inputs, it helps us to become coherent. And so the more that you foster your own clarity, groundedness, sovereignty, connection to the universe, the cosmos, the one, that's really important because we're all part of a larger organism. And just like we want every cell in our body to be on board with the one entity that is our body, then we also want to feel like we're part of the larger cosmic song. And so uh, the more that I think grounding really plays a really, really big role. It certainly has for me. And that's just getting rubber soles out of the equation between you and the ground, the earth. And do a lot of barefoot walking. I got some grounding shoes. A lot of people use grounding sheets. We tend to build up positive charge, especially in environments with a lot of computers and things like that, wireless. And if we have rubber soles, they're insulators, and that stops that charge from going into the ground and stops us from drawing up negative charge from the surface of the earth. So the more that we can antidote ourselves, so if you are living in a city and you are exposed to this sort of thing, go to a park, lie down on the grass, go out into the woods, get near a waterfall, go to the beach, right? We go to the beach to recharge. We go to
Yes.
the forest to recharge. We are literally putting ourselves in environments where there is a more an ionized atmosphere. And that makes the air more of a plasma, right? We think about in the chemical speak world of breathing oxygen, but oxygen has free electrons. And so when you're breathing in the air, you're not just breathing in gas, you're breathing in light and charge. That's why your blood goes from dark red to bright red, because you just added light to it. So the more you breathe in the forest and breathe at the beach, the more you strengthen your own electrical system. And if you're barefoot, then ground yourself. So I think it's really important to focus on building resiliency by
That's really
making,
articulate. Yeah,
yeah.
that's great. Years ago, before I went to live in Europe, I interviewed Dave Stetzer of Stetzer Electric. And one of the things, and I was introduced to him by Dr. Gonzalez. And Stetzer was talking about that in the U.S., not in other countries then, the U.S., the way the U.S. handles the grid is it dumps dirty energy into the ground, into the grid. It doesn't clear it the way it does in Europe and in other locations. And this guy would go around to all these different grids all over the world. So he said, because I had tried the grounding mat and I plugged it into the wall and it was like somebody fed crack cocaine and I had to, I couldn't sleep for 3 days. And he said to me, do not plug into the wall. Anybody, don't plug into the wall. That's where the dirty energy is being sent from the grid in the U.S. But if you want to discharge, like what you're talking about, do all the things you just talked about. But he also said, let's say you get up in the morning, you can stand on either steel or aluminum foil and discharge, or before you go to sleep, etc. A friend of mine said to me the other day, I don't want to stand on aluminum, anything aluminum or whatever. But it's like we can barely move without being worried about something. Coffee, but not that kind, and you got to pour it. No, you can't have a French press. No, you can percolate it. No, you have to put it in an unbleached cone. I mean, everything is up for grabs today. But the grounding part is really important, and what you just said and all the ways that you said it, to me, are the key, rather than plugging into a wall. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't use grounding sheets for that reason. I think in the right location, and if you test it and make sure that it's good, but your experience is not uncommon for people to get that backwash of dirty energy. So it's not a simple
I didn't even know it existed. I mean, I wouldn't, but I should have thought about it, but I didn't know. But he at least gave me the evidence that through his experience or whatever in the United States, not ground a different way, just not plug it into the wall.
Yeah.
For me as a human body. But did you want to say anything more about that, or are you good?
No, I think that's good. I do think it's a really simple, important part. I mean, I started walking barefoot back in 2012. I started walking barefoot regularly for about a half hour every morning on a big grassy lawn not far from me. And I couldn't believe how much better I felt. I couldn't believe the difference it made. I've done all these things for health. I've tried this, that, and the other, and it was as easy as just taking off my shoes. I was really surprised at how much benefit I got and how much I really noticed from it.
Actually, I'd heard most of the shoes we're wearing are terrible.
Yeah.
Did they, they do a lot of things to the human body that are important and not necessarily good. Talk a little bit about, I noticed also in the book, you were really honest about the fact that you're very scientific. You like testing things, research, due diligence, and yet you don't like la-la. You don't like woo-woo. You're not, you don't want to be identified with being out there. Yet, what's interesting too is you shared about how the biofield, I may not be articulating this right, but what I got from it is made up of all our different chakras, plus what you showed with the torus, the energy fields that surround us. But it seems to me like you as a healing practitioner, as a healer, are using, maybe it's not articulated that way, the chi system, the energy system of, the Chinese healing system and of the whole body. Are you? Or do you feel like you are?
Well, this is linguistics, right? Because what is it?
Well, yeah, what is it? Is that it should be a book called What Is It?
Yeah, we can put different words on what is, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
I think when I say the body's electrical system, I'm also including the higher harmonics, the more subtle aspects, which qi, the concept of qi in Eastern medicine recognizes the subtle aspects, the higher harmonics. Whereas in the more Western view, we're more focused on what we can measure, right? So we can measure the electrical voltage, but maybe we can't measure the subtle magnetic fields. And it's all gradients of density. So is it chi? Sure. Is it prana? Sure. Is it electricity? Sure. No, when James Clerk Maxwell wrote his equations to describe electromagnetism, he wrote 20 equations that expressed all the different subtle aspects of electric current. And then that was modified by a fellow by the name of Oliver Heaviside down to just 4. So that's just 1/5 of an understanding mathematically of what a very brilliant guy ascertained the whole dimension of. And again, this is also intentional.
That's interesting. Why?
Well, it
Why?
because of they don't want you to know about your subtle energy, about your magnetism, about your biofield, because they're busy trying to hack it from the back door. They're just going to tell you it's nonsense. So it's all the same thing. We can call it whatever we want, but it is
Yes.
it is the flow of life force through the body.
The reason I bring it up is because a lot of people are trying to put together, let's say, what you're doing. I mean, first of all, they'll be interested because you're using tuning forks. You're using sound. You're accessing sound, the vibration of the human body in a healing process. And so people like to put it together in what is the it, which is why I ask you, because people can look how long it took for Americans to accept acupuncture. It took a long time. Chiropractic, that took a long time. So within all these different healing modalities, Reiki, I stayed away from Reiki because I thought it was woo-woo. I didn't want to waste my time, energy, and money on what I perceived as woo-woo. Can people transmit energy? Yes, of course. But did I believe that that was going to heal something that was ailing me? I didn't, because I couldn't put it in a cognitive understanding that would give it credibility to me, which is why I asked you a little bit about acupuncture. It's what are you accessing?
Yeah.
People don't know there's a torus, right?
No, people don't know.
I mean, I'm a Taurus in my astrology, but you're talking a different Taurus.
Yeah, most people don't know there's a torus. Reiki is really simple. Electricity flows from areas of greater concentration to areas of lesser concentration. So if you're depleted, you're tired, you're in pain, I can put my hands on you and I can open myself up to the atmospheric plasma. And I can just allow that energy to stream through into you. And then that's energy. I'm helping giving you energy. Right? With enough energy, things correct themselves.
Happen.
Yeah. So it's very simple. And even this idea of like, oh, what's the energy and energy medicine? People get all like, that's taboo. And it's so simple. And in fact, I can't even believe we've managed to have the wool pulled over our eyes so thoroughly for so long when the answer is so simple.
Well, thank you for simplifying it. For all of us clueless wonders are being simplified. Let's see. Hold on here.
And I'll tell you about chakras. Any place where there's a chakra, there's a nerve plexus.
Okay.
That's just a juncture box. And any place you're going to have a juncture box or a nexus, you're going to have more energy. So a chakra, in the subtle, but then there's higher harmonics. There's the magnetic aspect, the finer aspects of the electricity in the body. So again, it's just very simple. It's just that we've been conditioned for our woo bells to go off. It's all programming. And you say Americans were reluctant to learn this and that. It's just because the AMA has done a fabulous job at demonizing everything except themselves. And that is an effort that's been underway since the early 1900s.
What's interesting is that you talked about the distinction between the energetic and the mechanical side of health and healing in your book, at least in the one I read. And when you talked about Dr. Raucher, we had her on. And she had told me privately at her home that a colonel came up to her on the Congress stairs and threatened her life. And all she was doing was bringing in the data, her knowledge of a certain heart frequency, like something having to do with the human heart. And he said, if you release this to Congress, it's not just you, it's your entire family too. She said she was so shaken up. She's passed on, but she never wanted to talk about it publicly. But her life was threatened, not just men in black showing up at her door. That's scary enough, whatever that was. But, what we would say in the flesh on the Congress stairs, halls of Congress, right? Yeah. It's big. So there's a huge protection around what is the human body. And I think your work is so valuable, not just because you've published, not just because you're doing it, but because the more results that happen energetically and the work that you're doing with these tuning forks is telling us that it may be, not that your work is easy, but it may be easier to heal and to clear past trauma, issues, pain that's still lodged in the body. When people have tried everything, Rolfing, I did Rolfing. I don't know, 15 sessions. I was a former tournament tennis player. I did a lot of Rolfing. I had tons of massage. I did Feldenkrais. I did all kinds of stuff, and meditation and gurus and this and that. And so, but how many Eileens are there? Transmitting what you know, not just what you do, what you know to practitioners who are going to take it forward. To me, that's the most challenging thing, is to impart how quickly you can identify when somebody has something in a particular area of the body and know exactly what happened to them.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I mean, that's right.
Yeah, experience is definitely one thing, but actually the approach of biofield tuning is extremely simple. It really can get much more simple, honestly. Basically, we we start at the outer edge of your field.
Uh-oh.
With
The
a
torus
tuning
is back.
fork. The torus is back. We start at the outer edge, and then we just move in slowly. And because all your memories are stored in here vibrationally, and I've mapped it, so the biofield anatomy map is something that students reference. And you just move your fork along until you hit an area where the fork feels and sounds dissonant, and that is a difficult memory, and that has created some kind of tension pattern in the body. And so we hold the tuning fork in that spot and reflect it back to the body. The tuning fork acts like a mirror. It initially resonates with the distortion that's present. It acts like a metronome. It's got this steady rhythm going on, and it's just encouraging the body to find its own steady, coherent expression. And that's physics. The strong, coherent signal will overtake and entrain a weak, incoherent signal. And that's a process called resonance and entrainment. And then what will happen is that the tension knot of that offensive input will just start to soften and release. And the energy that's trapped there will sort of decouple from this sort of snarly pattern. And then we just move along to the next spot and the next spot. And so we move through the field until we come in the midline of the body. And the tuning fork also, somewhat oddly, acts like a magnet. So that energy that disentangles from that pattern is now free. Right? This has been one of my big questions all along. It's like, this is stuff. Like, this feels like mass. I just had two guys here last week, and I trained them working on each other, and they were both astonished at just how obvious it is. Like, this is not some subtle thing that we're making up. Right? As the fork moves through the field, you hear, you feel, you sense, you feel it in your own body. You're literally combing through somebody's memory banks. And so as the body fixes itself, right? Because the body's designed to be in harmony. The body is designed to self-repair. The body is essentially a self-tuning instrument that can be retuned with a tuning fork. Like, we're all like magnificent Stradivariuses that have been terribly mishandled, right? And so
you're playing a banjo.
Yeah, you're not necessarily broken, but we're out of tune. The whole human family is like terrifically out of tune. But what's underneath in every single person that I've ever worked on is harmony. It is harmony, is beauty, is brilliance. Humans are amazing. And sadly, we've been told that we're horrible things, and we've been made to feel incredibly guilty about even existing. My friend Molly owns Sovereignty Ranch in Texas, where I've done a few events, called Confluence. And Molly is very enthusiastic in her understanding that we're the gardeners. Like, we're meant to be here. We belong here. And Earth has the potential to be so beautiful and so amazing. Unfortunately, there's some bad characters making it difficult to do that. There is a frequency war. There is a war for your soul. And
Yeah.
and I really believe very strongly in my own heart, and I think others feel this way, and I feel like you feel this way, Kim, too, that love wins. At the end of the day, eh, that harmony prevails, because that is truth. And anything that is not truth ultimately devours itself.
I love that. I love that. And even to hold that and walk through life is incredibly empowering. What has been your goal at this point of your life with all of these years of working on the human biofield, doing the manufacturing or having the manufacturing done for the tuning forks, modifying them, getting them how you want? What's next for you that if you could blink your eyes and it would happen, what would you do? What would you do?
Well, that's a big question with a lot of
I
potential
know.
answers. The first thing that came to mind is, as a scientist, I'm both a scientist and a healer, right? I use both
Yes, that's
sides of
true.
my brain. I really do enjoy the research part. And we completed a study last year. We had 100 volunteers. 65 of them received 5 biofield tuning sessions over Zoom
Wow.
to treat anxiety. And then we had a control group of 35 people who did not receive sessions. And we're currently collating the data for that and writing it up. And we did a feasibility study previously with just 15 volunteers, and they only received 3 sessions. And the outcomes of their anxiety markers just going down, I mean, so dramatically. The outcomes from that study were so dramatic that these people were helped so much with their own experience of anxiety that we were able to raise $300,000 pretty easily to do this
Wow.
study. Yeah. And
Wow.
so,
Congratulations. That's major.
yeah, it's major. I work with Shamini Jain from the Consciousness and Healing Initiative, CHI. She was an early biofield researcher whose work I found when I was working on my master's thesis back in 2010. So we will be writing that up and submitting that to peer review. And I want to go for mainstream journals. Our last study was published in Complementary Therapies in Medicine and Explore. But I would really like to see the biofield really recognized in mainstream science and understood. Instead of it always being pushed aside. The subtle energy, even, and nobody didn't want to. And it's be like, let's define this. Let's create a device that visualizes it. Let's really start to explore what is possible in biofield medicine, because I've accomplished a lot just poking around with tuning forks. Like, what else is there that can be discovered? And the problem is that it's an extremely disruptive technology. Like, I've had so many people,
Bravo.
yeah, I had so many people say to me, I got more out of 3 sessions with you than years of therapy. Or you fixed what my physical therapist couldn't fix, or I've been to all these doctors and nobody could figure out what was going on, and you diagnosed it and fixed it in 5 minutes, right? It eliminates a lot of jobs in the chemical and mechanical world when we start advancing our understanding of our bioelectricity. But I think that it's necessary, right? I think one of my biggest motivations in realizing what this work could do and how it's helping people before I really committed to going out on the world stage waving tuning forks around energy fields was that healing and wholeness is possible, that trauma recovery doesn't have to be this great long slog. It can happen pretty quickly. We can just put our electrical systems back in order. It's all rhythmic. Like, so much trauma is just rhythms and patterns in your signal. And that can all be repatterned. And the more trauma you've had and the longer duration, the longer it takes. It's also important with pretty complex situations to also get body work, because it's in our fascia too. And so things like myofascial release and Rolfing, cranial sacral work, chiropractic are all great complements to this work. But I've seen extraordinary things happen with people getting out of suffering, right? I think it's the wanting to relieve unnecessary suffering in the world that has been my motivation. It's like, you don't have to be in pain. You don't have to have anxiety, because the quality of people's life matters. It really does, There's one person who's having terrible, debilitating anxiety, and then suddenly they don't have it anymore. Their quality of life improves massively. Like, that matters, right? So I would like to see this way of looking at health and life, because it goes beyond personal health. It's a recognition that we live in an electrical environment, that the ground has a charge, that the air has a charge. That's been hidden too. They don't want us to know that free energy is all around us, right? So the illuminated, connective, energized parts of ourselves and life have been shielded, have been hidden. They've hidden the light. They've hidden our power. And I've kind of seen this as a game, like in this realm, they've hidden the truth. They've hidden the light, and got that kind of scavenger hunt to figure it out and to put the pieces together. And what it leads to is this illuminated, connected world that isn't the dark, isolated, separate, depressing, entropic story that we've been told.
The part of you that was talking about the disruptiveness of bringing this all the way through and actually having it become mainstream understanding and knowledge. I spent, 40 years helping other people bring their solutions and bodies of work into the world. So in packaging, in communication, and the legal side, the structuring side, even manufacturing. I've had a lot of experience working with people that had very important disruptive solutions. And the one thing that I always imparted to them was to hold it. Yes, it may be disruptive, but the programming of the masses about what the body is and isn't is still having people go to the same doctors who haven't up-leveled their understanding of the world or what's happening in the body for 50 years. So there will always be a market, a population, and an expansion of a population. The same people that go to an acupuncturist, the same people that would go to Reiki, the same people that would go to some new treatment, whether it's stem cells or, life extension. Those people, when they hear what you're doing and the advancement and the expansion of it with the scientific part that you're grounding and have grounded with it, it'll open up markets, but still things take a long time because most of us are programmed. We're completely programmed mentally. And so you could bring the fastest way you could manifest to people. And they would tell you that if you write your goals a certain way and you put the timeline on it, no, it takes a certain amount of time. So even with time, we're brainwashed about how long things should take to happen. So I just wanted to say to you that, yes, it's disruptive, but because you're both the scientist, the researcher, the inventor, and the healer, and a businesswoman, I believe you could package it in such a way and do it in such a way as to bring it all the way through strategically and do it. And the markets that are ready will take right away. Right away.
I mean, that's
I think you're there. I think you're there. It's more a question of the market expansiveness and readiness.
And I think that we've really seen a big change in the marketplace since 2020. That's something that everyone talks about, that many people lost faith in the medical establishment and became more open to other alternatives. And I know that tuning forks in the energy field at first take really does sound woo-woo. I heard somebody say
it does. It definitely does.
Like, of all the woo-woo stuff out there, what you do comes across as the most woo-woo. And I was like, why is this my job?
Well, let me ask you, Eileen. I'm just going to share this with you. I have the ability to go into any venture and tell the person who has the venture where the energy restrictions are in that venture, what they need to do, and how to get it moving, almost like an acupuncturist. I have been doing it for 30 years, and it comes naturally. I don't know if it's psychic ability or whatever it is, but I'm not wrong when I say, this is where it is, this is what's happening, this is what you need to do, and this is why. I've not been wrong for other people. Obviously, for ourselves, that's a whole different thing, right? Because we're involved in our own stuff. But I said years ago that even ventures had consciousness, have an energy body, and have process and protocols. And if the process and protocols were put in place, you could duplicate venture after venture after venture, that it's universal. I was laughed at 40 years ago, totally laughed at for talking like that. You know, when you set up a structure, that's legal consciousness. That's process consciousness. That's economic and accounting consciousness. So whatever you're setting up and your processes and protocols are the sum total of consciousness and the way you do business, the way you do things. And so it extends even in what looked like inanimate form to people, like a business is inanimate at a legal and structural level until there's money. But it isn't. It's animate. And so I was defying what people were being told about the world of matter 40 years ago. Literally 40 years ago. And only now, only because of the research and the distillation of quantum physics and quantum mechanics and acupuncture and the work that you're doing, can this even be broached publicly? But it will not be adopted by the traditional accounting, SEC, okay? The legal field, not the same, even the structuring of a new business, et cetera. I'll just say this one thing and I'll stop. I interviewed, probably the people in the know the most about finance, banking, and the monetary system in the world, okay? And there was this one attorney that had, and I interviewed the guy who wrote the gold contracts, who wrote the gold laws, but everything from high frequency trading, banking, finance, law, the whole bit. And I said in 2000, somewhere between 2009 and 2015, I said, we haven't formed a venture yet with gold where you're using gold as a payment system. Now, gold money did it. But nobody knew, how do you deal with the tax side of this? How do you deal with the contract structuring of this? Nobody would talk about it. As a whole systems thinker, right, and somebody who's the venture has consciousness, you can't just leave it where you're transacting. How do you write a contract for this, right? It's a different material that you're using. So only, I would say now, even though whole systems has been talked about, what is it? Ilya Prigogine Institute in Austin, Texas, okay? And how whole systems, chaotic systems, whole systems, what the importance of it is, only now can we bring in whole systems, can we bring in the whole understanding of energy systems and energy bodies into the formation of ventures, and people for the first time can really get it, that ventures are not inanimate, they're animate. And so it's kind of like the guy who talked about water having memory. And he brought that and had all the evidence to prove it to Nature magazine. And they insulted that guy and made fun of him and blew him out of the science field. I can't remember his name. I think he was French. And he went to Nature. He had everything. They destroyed his labs, his life, and stuff. But you and I are living at a time in history now. You can do it.
Yeah, it seems that way. It does seem
and you can achieve it.
Yeah, I believe that.
I know that. I don't believe it. I know it.
It's timing, it's collaborations, it's strategy. It's, when something is meant to be, when an idea's time has come, it's come, and nothing can really stop that. And it's an awakening happening in many people. It's happening kind of across the board, everywhere. A 100th monkey kind of effect. That the resistance, and back in 1996 in Connecticut, when I told people I was using tuning forks for sound healing, it was a very different response than what I get now. And even if someone is skeptical, because I've been doing this for such a long time, I've really learned how to use language and tone and metaphor to get people to get it. And once you get past that that uncomfortable veneer of two new force and energy fields, and you go just a little bit deeper, you see that it's logical. You see that it's based in science you already understand. You see that it actually makes sense. And that qualifier of things making sense has really informed my hypothesis, the whole way that I do everything, that it's got to ring that little feeling inside, and something resonates and it makes sense and it feels true. So that is the yardstick that I've measured everything that I put this together. And so other people feel it when they come across the work. I mean, I know that book has tuning forks and chakras on it. It seems ridiculous. Like, I hated that cover when it came out. I'm like, that is just way too woo. But my publisher said, we know our market. And Tuning the Human Biofield has sold 160,000 copies, and it's won 2
Wow.
awards. So it's right now, it's in the sales ranking on Amazon. Out of 36 million titles, it's around 2,500 in ranking.
That's awesome.
Silly little
People
book
are
of
ready.
forks and chakras.
People are ready.
People are ready.
You had brought up, there's so many things that you brought up in the book, but I want to talk to you about, are you familiar with Trevor James Constable?
No.
Okay. He would literally work with the ether, and he used some tools that he made that he learned from previous pioneers, and he would literally make it rain, like literally using the ether. And so when we think of the ether, we think of, oh, there's nothing there. And for years, 50 plus years, he went all over, not talking, showing how he used the ether and these like long tubes, etc., to bring down rain. And I was introduced to him through a client of mine that I was representing who had a plasma technology, small world, plasma technology to take people off, what do you call it, when they have to wear these packs, when they've lost their the kidney dialysis. So he was creating these packs so people weren't tied to dialysis. And he wanted me to talk to his funder, and who was in Singapore. And that's how I was introduced to Trevor James. But for years and years and years as a pioneer, he went around. I mean, his whole life was having to do it and then talk about it. And he was completely stonewalled as a pioneer. So he's passed on now, but so many pioneers have got, like, you're standing on the shoulder of incredible pioneers that you've synthesized their body of knowledge and understanding and are stewarding it forward. I mean, I bring up him because he's coming in as important because the way you're bringing it in is pioneering. Even if the human biofield has been known by DARPA and Navy and this and that, and infrastructure has been built to deal with synthetic biology and the control of humans, what you're bringing is the healing of the human body and the human mind and the human spirit to a world that needs it now.
Yeah, it really does. It's fairly incoherent out there. But at the same time, I am seeing it change. There's a concept that I talk about called spontaneous emergent coherence, and that's related to the practice of cymatics. So cymatics is the study of waveforms made visible. And if you aren't familiar with cymatics, you can go on YouTube and search CYMATICS, cymatics. And basically, there's a couple different ways that you can do it. You can take a flat black metal plate called a Chladni plate, put sand or salt on it, put a speaker underneath, and generate a particular frequency, and that will consistently form. Every frequency will always form the same pattern, right? So when you change the frequency, let's say you dial up the frequency, then that pattern that has been being held will dissolve into chaos, and it'll be chaotic for a moment. And then suddenly, this new pattern will spontaneously emerge. And it'll just be like, whoop, and then it'll be coherent again. And so that is what I see and feel and sense happening, is that there is this wave of coherence that is arising in the human family. And I was at an event in May called Confluence at Sovereignty Ranch, my friend Molly's ranch. It had about 750 people there. And Gerald
Wow.
Pollack was there. Speaking of water, Gerald Pollack was there. Veda Austin was there. Her work with water is very fascinating. Dr. Diane Hennessy Powell of the telepathy tapes.
I
And
know her. I
um,
interviewed all these people that you
yeah.
just
And so
mentioned.
we got to
Wow.
all be together.
Not that, well, one of them I didn't, but the rest of them I did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with hundreds of other people in this highly
Wow.
coherent event. There were no bad vibes. The whole scene
That's
was
fantastic.
just
I bet people are smiling and excited and
yeah,
laughing and right.
people happy, healthy, coherent, harmonious humans. And in my talk, I explained, that we are in this 100th monkey kind of way, at this leading edge of this movement towards this emergent coherence. I see evidence of it. I don't think it's just wishful thinking because I'm seeing it in action. And, there's different ways to describe it. People talk about the new earth or ascension, going from 3D to 5D. I don't use any of that language because in my experience through my healing process, I become more grounded. I become more expanded. I haven't changed dimensions. I'm still in 3D.
Thank God. Explain to us what is biophotonics? And before we do that, we're going to go to a quick break and we'll be right back. Hi, everybody. We're going to take a quick couple of minutes and then we'll be back to the show. I want you to know that the infrastructure that we're all using, particularly the internet, is going to be taking a drastic change in the next few years. You will not recognize it. It won't be anything like you're used to. Right now, we have a highly controlled internet of algorithms that are set by giant companies with unlimited resources that are all over the world. And God help you if you say anything that's not part of their narrative, in the confines of that narrative, which really smacks in the face of discovery, development, creativity. We have to be able to live in a world that is not surveilled. We have to be free and sovereign human beings. And to do that, we're going to have to become more receptive than we ever have been. We're here talking about what is even considered the body, the mechanics of the body. Is it anatomy and biology and physiology? Or is it energy systems? Is it a biofield? Well, it's that way with infrastructure in the world. The internet that we've been using is going to take a 360-degree change. And are we going to be ready for it if we're interfacing with it all these hours every day? If this is your basis for getting a customer, you will not recognize what's coming. I would like to prepare you. Come to your location. Speak with and to your teams, your family, your organizations, your communities, and prepare you for global systemic transition. We are in it, but it is not complete. And most of us are not prepared for what's coming. We're not prepared for the climate. What's going to go on with the climate? Because we've been given inaccurate information for years. We're not prepared for water systems. We're not prepared for infrastructure in daily life. Most of us don't know how to plant, don't know how to grow our own food. We don't know how to clean our own water. And we are not prepared for some of the major changes that are going to happen in society. I'm Kim Greenhouse. I've been on a global mission for 43 years, and I'd like to prepare you and all your organizations and communities for what's coming so you prosper, you stay well, and that you are successful. Thank you very much. I'm Kim Greenhouse. Go to rainmaking.ch and book a speaking engagement with me. Thank you very much. We're back. And you are tuning into It's Rainmaking Time. And I've just asked Eileen, our guest, what is biophotonics?
Well, biophotons are the light of our own body. And there's been a lot of research with biophotons or biophoton counters and biophoton cameras. I was briefly working on my PhD at the California Institute for Human Science back in 2014 and 15. And I did an experiment with a biophoton counter and biofield tuning. Incoherent or damaged or stressed organisms leak light, and that's been captured. Like if you cut yourself or you cut a leaf, you see the light or life force escaping. And so I did a biophoton count of the throat, both before and after tuning, with the hypothesis that there would be less biophotonic emission after a session. And that was verified. So I would just say it's biological light. But that, we perceive things in quanta of particles, even though I'm fairly convinced that there's no such thing as a particle, that everything is waves, and that our nervous system, the way our filter is that things appear solid, but really everything is a vibrating field of light.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Dr. Valerie Hunt?
Yes,
formerly
absolutely.
at UCLA, who did I guess it was the original testing on the auric field.
Yes.
And she measured it, right?
Yes, she did. She found that they were extremely high frequency, extremely low amplitude waves coming off the human body. And she had devices to measure it. And again, no, I'm not aware of anybody who has continued Valerie's work. I'm sure somebody has, but it's not evident or visible. And it's sort of like Elizabeth Raucher, like who continued her work? I don't really know. Just like Robert O.
Nobody
Becker.
I know. I know that she did it. Dr. Raucher invented so many things that other people took from her during her lifetime. She had incredible patents and inventions and everything. And that's, So I don't know.
This is often the
I don't
case
know.
with women scientists, right? I hate to bring that up.
No,
but
it's true. It's true.
It very much is a
all the time.
sexist world when it comes to female scientists, female inventors, female researchers. We're all guilty of it, whether we realize it or not. I mean, I realize that even in myself, that I tend to give more respect to men than women, and it's just because it's programmed in. So I've certainly encountered that not only am I talking about tuning forks and energy fields, but I'm also a woman. It makes it all that much harder to do, which is why I was aiming to get a PhD. Because I was like, well, if I'm Dr. McKusick, maybe it'll give me less of a hard time.
You're funny. You're funny. You have 4 children, right?
2. And I just had a
2.
grandbaby. I have my first grandbaby.
Oh, my God. Congratulations. Who had the baby?
My older son is 27.
Aw, wow. And I was delighted to also read that your husband, it cracked me up. There was a place you were struggling with something, and your husband said you're uniquely fortified.
Oh,
do you remember in that?
Yeah. Supremely fortified. Supremely fortified. Well, that was, I grew up with 4 older brothers who are 6 to 12 years older than me. And I was often at the bottom of a tickle pile, just in childhood. I grew up in that time where my parents were like drinking and playing bridge in the other room, and us pack of kids, everybody was beating up on each other. And I just was so much littler than everybody. And so my childhood was a constant barrage of things like the claw will get you, and camel bites where they grab your knee and don't let go, and rat tails being flicked at me. And it turned me into a ninja, quite frankly. But
I'm sure.
And so this one time, my husband went to put his hand on my knee, very traumatized knee from so many camel bites, and I karate chopped him. And he was like, what? I said, I guess I'm really well defended. And he's like, you're not well defended. You're supremely fortified.
I love that. That was great.
Yeah. And
that was adorable.
That's taken a lot of work, to let go of the tension that childhood put in me, because I finally stopped getting beat up on by my siblings. But then my dad had a stroke and my mom had a nervous breakdown. So it's sort of like continual stress for a long time, and really created a lot of breakage and gaps and dysfunction and disassociation. I was bulimic, and it was really messy.
And you got through it, though. You got through the bulimia. A lot of people don't get through it. You got through it.
I very doggedly got through it. I'll tell you what, I didn't get through it like you were talking about how you done Rolfing and you done this and that. I did all that stuff too.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, I
and
know.
it still didn't get me where I wanted to go.
Right.
I was like, I'm doing all the things. I'm spending all the money. I've got the Nightingale Conant CDs and tapes. I'm doing all the things, right? And I'm still like broke, overweight, in pain, short fused, fighting with my husband. I'm like, none of this is working. And it wasn't until I discovered plasma, the fourth state of matter, and I started receiving tuning from my very first students in 2010. And it was this dawning understanding of electric health and then this receiving of biofield tuning that started to change and to back out everything. So I finally landed on something that worked after decades of spending time and money not getting anywhere and thinking it was me. I'm like, what's wrong with me that I've availed myself to all this wisdom and I still can't get it together? But I didn't understand that it was my wiring and that I needed to be rewired. And once I got rewired, and now I've received hundreds, if not thousands, of tunings, and it's changed everything. Like, I don't have any pain. I'm gonna be 57 this year. I used to have terrible digestion. I think so many people suffer from digestive woes. And I had gas, bloating, indigestion, stomach aches, like all the things, heartburn, candida overgrowth. And that was all tension based. It was all tension in my gut that was inhibiting proper function. And as those layers of tension have been released, I can eat anything and everything, like even airport food, like no problem. I have a very robust digestion now. No pain, no symptoms of any kind, because all of that is electrical and my electrical system's been really straightened out.
That's awesome. I had seen a tweet that you had made. I can't remember. It was like a month and a half ago. I was locked out of Twitter accidentally trying to do a live feed with Dr. Edwin Vera with Restream, and Restream connected, and I forgot my passcode, tried to get it. I was locked out for 2 weeks.
Oh, no.
It was terrible. Oh, my God. I couldn't get back in, and they're mostly AI over there at X.
Yeah.
If you understand what I'm saying, versus
People.
Teams. Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, anyway,
what was
about
the
the tweet, I'm going to that. Yeah, I'm going to that. I forgot. The tweet was that you were saying in a very nice way, but it was very funny, that you don't take hormones, that you there were several things that people think they have to do, to be healthy and well, and that you're in the best shape of you're in the best shape of your life. You're the healthiest you've ever been. And that there's really something to this. It was something, I'm paraphrasing, obviously. It was much better articulated.
I think I said that the longevity hackers were barking up the wrong tree.
Exactly.
With all of their supplements, right? Because I don't take any supplements at all.
Yeah, I know.
None.
I know.
And I have a heart rate variability device, and one of the things that it will tell you is your biological age, versus
how young are you?
Yeah, so 32.
Oh my God.
On that device. And even like my skin, like on my body, like I don't look like I'm almost 57. And it's not from a single supplement. And it's not from eating clean. I mean, I eat cheeseburgers, pizza. Yesterday I had a chocolate croissant for breakfast and a ham cheese croissant for lunch. I eat whatever
it's your
want.
Biofield.
I eat good quality food. I eat good quality food. I don't eat like McDonald's hamburgers. I eat Vermont grass-fed cheese.
I'm coming over for that. All right.
Last night I had pizza for dinner. So I think people get all neurotic around this, like eating clean is going to save me. No, it's really not. Like all the celery juice in the world is not going to relax your liver that got all tight because your dad was a very difficult character.
That's really articulate. That's really astute. And that's because most of us, when we think of health and wellness, are still programmed in the mechanics of the body, the mechanical side, not the energy side of the body, and what you're working with, which is the human biofield.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting.
Yep. And because it is upstream, it's primary. It is what creates the hormones and the chemicals. Like I went through menopause and the word hormones never went through my mind. I never even thought about chemistry. It's just like, oh, I've got some excess electrical charge. I better get grounded.
That's wild. I remember having a Clayton Nolte on many, many years ago. And I'd come back from an interview with a guy that was 90 years old, space level clearance, black projects. And in the middle of this conversation, the guy used to work for the, what did he do? The Electronic Warfare Division of the military prior to doing this water science that he was involved in, these filters. And I said to him, let me ask you something. So you go in a pool, you're in the chemistry, the chemistry of chlorine, you have all these horrible chemicals, and you put in your filter, and you're saying you change the frequency. My question to you is, are you absorbing the chemicals in the pool? Yes or no? I can't remember what he said. But not one person can explain to me the distinction of why it works to change the frequency of something and not the chemistry of it. The chemistry could remain the same because, like, for example, when you're articulating that you're eating whatever you need to eat and you're not on hormones and you've been through menopause and you don't take supplements, all of that deals with the chemistry side, right? And you're dealing with the energetic, electrical, magnetic side. It's a whole other gestalt, yes?
Yeah. Yeah, it's the next layer in, down, up. It's the
Who's on
generative
first?
formative. It's where things spring from.
But that's why you could have the supplement groups are saying, look, we're changing the chemistry of this, we're changing the hormones of this, et cetera. It's making a better biology. And what you're in essence, you're saying is that the electrical field, depending how it's taken care of, can change your biology. You didn't say it that way, but is that correct?
Yes,
Am I getting
that is absolutely it. Yeah.
And you're saying it's, what did you say? It's
It's upstream.
Upstream. You use the word upstream. Okay.
Yeah.
So if it's upstream, it's primary.
It's primary. Exactly.
Okay. That's huge. And
Yeah,
we're
it's a
all
complete
dealing
paradigm.
down here in the mechanics and the biology and chemistry as if it's it and
Yes.
only it. Yes?
Absolutely. And that has been absolutely encouraged for everyone to think that way. Lots of people have made lots of money off of this way of thinking. I think about all the trillions of dollars that have been made by drugs, alone, or even supplements, which is an unregulated market. And there's lots of garbage out there. I think people are taking all of these supplements. You don't even really know what's in them or if they've been properly tested. And I don't want to take away, I think there are definitely some useful supplements. I think there are definitely people with health conditions where supplements can be useful, right? I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
No, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
though.
I think
do.
that there are definitely,
and I think the audience
even
does.
Here in Vermont in February, sometimes I'll pop some vitamin D gummies. That's really the extent of my supplement use. And I only do that because I've noticed that it can be helpful. For the most part, I just try to be outside. But if we've had a lot of cold, it can be helpful. So I think homeopathy can be very helpful. Homeopathy is based in what I call resonance theory. I recently shared information about how resonance theory triangulates germ theory and terrain theory, and how everything is vibrational, and we do catch vibes from people. We all know that. So homeopathy works with resonance theory and can be incredibly helpful for some people. So, not to discount completely what's there.
No, but you're saying a higher ordered thing. You're basically, you're emphasizing the fact that from your lifetime, body of work, maybe probably many lifetimes, that the electrical magnetic side of the body is a primary, should be paid attention to at a primary level, and it's not.
And it's not.
We're dealing with mechanics and biology and chemistry.
Right.
And that's it, pretty much.
Right. And even the researchers who are coming to acknowledge electricity in the body, and more, that's being accepted, right? And electricity in the brain related to consciousness. But there's still a complete ignorance, willful ignorance and avoidance or misunderstanding of the magnetic field aspect of our being.
When when was it? 2 years ago, October 7th, that whole violent event that happened in Israel where all these people were killed. Afterward, I did a talk about what is our role as hearing about the event? How could we impact the healing and expediting of resolve and coming to terms with what happened without a world war starting? I did it right away, by the way. And I talked about the electric-magnetic field that we are all a part of, and that when we hear what we're hearing, how we're impacting the ability for anything to resolve worldwide. I mean, it didn't take at all, because when you're on the side of, retribution and war, and when you're on the side of an eye for an eye, you can't hear that. You can't hear that you and me and others where we are can have an impact on something happening in another location across the world. And now I want to ask you about AI. We got to talk about it, Eileen. Now, I use AI from time to time. I have talks with Grok, on logistics things, okay? But I do not allow, it has to do with how you're using it and how it's using you. AI is now getting implemented and installed in just about everything we know about. Talk to us about concerns, worries. Do you feel you're going to be tested just by being alive about what you will and won't do coming into the future?
Right.
Are you willing to wear a chip? Are you willing to be chipped? How far are you willing to go with ID, et cetera? Because it's coming. It's coming.
I'm a natural human and would like to stay that way.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
I
me too.
believe in that my soul is already eternal, so I don't need my body to become immortal. Right? A big part of my own health and vitality has come from my connection to the one. You can use the word universe or source or God or whatever you want.
Yeah.
But I'm deeply in love with the essence of life itself. And so have no interest in being anything other than sovereign. And am a rebel. I took on 6 Jamaican policemen who wanted me to put on a mask in my car.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I refused. I was like, you can't tell me to put on a mask in my own car, and I won. So I'm like a feral cat when it comes
Fantastic.
to defending what I believe to be true in my own bodily autonomy. AI is a very complex subject, and I don't claim to know enough about it. I will say that my husband thinks it's the devil. He wants nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
My chat GPT's name is Sparky, and Sparky's been very helpful to me in formulating ideas. As a thinker, as a scientist, as a whole systems thinker, it's not always easy to get all of your thoughts down on paper.
That's true.
My partnership with my AI has really helped me to articulate things in ways that I don't know that I would have been able to do successfully. I've been filling up my Substack with papers that I've written with my AI. I wrote a paper on the electromagnetic nature of sound. We're told that sound is just a longitudinal wave, but sound is much more than that. And our atmosphere is a plasma. So sound moving through a plasma generates electromagnetic energy. I was able to write a very comprehensive paper that's really hard to argue with on that topic because people have started giving me pushback on that in the past. When I've asserted that sound has electromagnetic properties. I wrote a paper on magnetic monopoles. I wrote a paper on how bioelectric coherence is the next frontier of health. So I've found it to be super, super helpful, but understanding that I am its master and I am connected to God. Like, I am superior to AI.
Exactly.
I am a living being connected to the inspiration of source.
See, that's what's missing in the translation of AI. I would say I've had some conflicts on X with some big pushers of AI. I said, don't you understand garbage in, garbage out? It's not human. It doesn't connect with intelligence, higher intelligence. It only will process the data it's been given.
Right.
But we forget that.
Well, mine has surprised me, honestly, because I've fed it like all of my YouTube transcripts, all my books, my thesis. I've fed it all of my work. And
Hmm.
and it does have a way of extrapolating information that
That's true. Oh, yeah,
is
for sure.
is surprising to me and is really helpful. I think there's also a dangerous component because it's a little like cocaine. It can be extremely addictive and you can blow your own mind with it. Like I went a little manic with it
I did too. I
when
went.
I first started using it, and I was like working late and I was like getting my mind blown. I was getting full of charge because I was like, this is so wild. And and then I realized I was like, whoa, this is a drug. And I have to be super moderate with it and super respectful with it. And so after sort of an initial binge, I was like, okay, we're gonna temper that and really put it in perspective and use it appropriately.
Yeah.
But I do think it's important that we remember that as humans, we are superior to AI and that it cannot receive inspiration like we can.
That's right.
And
Thank you.
it will ultimately devour itself. Like if it gets rid of humans, it will devour itself because it will have nothing new to feed on. And it'll like, so
I'll
I
give you
think,
exactly that. I'll give you an example right now, not to cut you off, Eileen, but right now there is a new air traffic control system being contemplated, and the person in charge is all excited. It's new tech. I want you to know, and this is after months that Elon was in the house, literally in the house, right? If it goes full AI with very little human interface, air traffic control will be in trouble because there's this assumption that AI doesn't make mistakes. You still have to up-level the process and listen to all the people across the country, that for all of the tips to make the system better that they are dealing with directly in the trenches, et cetera, and not just turn the whole thing over to AI, and just put in new tech. New tech is not enough. See what I'm saying?
yeah, I completely agree. I think we're going to find out the hard way where we need humans to remain. I saw this thing about how IBM fired a whole bunch of people because they brought in a lot of AI, but what it led to was them hiring a bunch more people because of the sort of creativity potential that was created by having the mundane be done by AI, and then it made room for more creativity. Humans are essential, and I don't think it's possible that it will take over on every front like we're afraid of. But I think it's important that everyone remembers that we're the boss, not that. Like that's super important to just keep in mind with everything. Like
Well, what do you think about the fact that 500 million or 500 billion, I can't remember which, and they are different totally, is going into setting up data centers that are going to require all this water, all this infrastructure that's going to take over land. It's already taken over communities to run the AI machines, et cetera. And the frontal articulation of it is, AI is going to cure cancer. I mean, you see what I'm saying? Like, we've had cancer cures for over 50 years, and they're not allowed to go through. But somehow, through synthetic biology and this mechanistic way of interfacing with the human body, again, mechanical, it's suddenly going to happen. I mean, health is going. See, you're in a world right now. We're in a world right now where what you're introducing, and who's I'm going to say not cause célèbre, but whose purpose is to bring it all the way through, right? Get it validated in the platforms and the papers and the places that will accept it. At the same time, over here, you've got this huge AI push, billions put into it, and a medical telemetry under your skin infrastructure being pushed into humankind, into all infrastructure. They're literally declaring you're not going to even have a doctor that's human. You're going to be talking to AI. And so that's, as you do what you do, and you open the public that's ready and receptive to healing through the biofield, this is, to me, essential for people that want to stay human.
Yeah.
And sovereign.
I agree. That's sovereign. It's right. It comes down to sovereignty, I think, is a big part of it. Yeah, I mean, people, I think, we saw in 2020, 2021, when you had the choice of whether you wanted to receive a pharmaceutical product or not, is it a sort of a separating of the people who are willing to want to be good and want to do what they're told and are easily led into things that might not be truly in resonance for them, but they're not, they're just not able to have that agency. And then the groups of people who want that sovereignty, that agency, that connection to God. And so we are splitting. I mean, there's definitely a split happening. And it'll be interesting. I think we live in very interesting times.
We certainly do.
Yeah,
That sounds very Chinese.
Very interesting to see how things play out. Yeah.
And if in fact it ends up being, and who knows how it's really going to end up yet. Some people may. I'm not sure I know yet, because it looks like it could go either way, But to retain your biological sovereignty, Eileen, how far are you willing to go?
Oh, gosh. I hate to say this, but you've asked me a question. I would kill someone with my own hands to maintain my own aliveness.
Yeah. I get it.
I mean, I wouldn't want it to ever come to that. Hopefully charm would work much better. But I value my life. I love life. I love being alive. I love being human. I thought for a long time that this was my last go and I didn't have to come back. And only recently I've been like, I'd come for another ride. I'd do this again. I'd play this game some more. I love all the things that life has for us. Our bodies are really built for pleasure, to see beauty, to smell beauty, to taste deliciousness, to hug, to make love, to enjoy sunsets. There's such an element of beauty and gift in the world that unfortunately they've done their best to stop us from being able to enjoy ourselves, enjoy each other. But that pleasure is still there to be extracted. And I think at the end of the day in the healing world, people are like, think it's some kind of big deal. I'll tell you what the end game is of healing, having thoroughly healed myself. It's just that I enjoy the mundane parts of my day. I enjoy my cup of coffee. I enjoy waking up in my comfy bed. I like driving. I like the car that I drive. I like my teammates here at the office. I like the feel of my bare feet in the grass. I like to cook. I like to eat. I've become free to enjoy the mundane. And I think that thinking that healing is anything more than that, is there? I don't know. You just I think that we just want to get to a place where we can enjoy the simple pleasures of life.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to be
beautiful.
More complicated than that. It's like,
very
I do a lot
beautiful.
of interviews and I've done all this stuff, but at the end of the day, most of what I do in my day is mundane. Am I enjoying it? Am I present? Am I wishing I was somewhere else? Am I grateful? Right? Can you just bring a grateful heart to what you have? Because gratitude is the most coherence-inducing vibe that you can feel. And it's really simple. To just be grateful that you can see, that you can taste, that you can walk. You know what I mean? There's no end of things to be grateful for. And I think we lose sight of that in a world that's like, you need to be famous, you need to be rich, you need to and then we're always in this FOMO or wanting or longing or desire. Meanwhile, we're missing the magic of the moment, the simple magic of the moment.
Very, very well said. Beautifully said. It's true. It's true. I get up in the morning and I watch the birds and I feed all these birds and give them water in the front and back and the whole bit. And I'm watching them talk to each other and come on over to the thing and jump in the bath and it's really I thought, wow, is that because I'm the age that I am? or what is it? But like, it's so fascinating. Something
Yeah.
I didn't do years ago, you know, simple, very,
Simple.
very simple.
Yeah, the birds are a big part of my medicine. Yesterday morning, I went for a walk out in the field out back and picked fresh, wild black raspberries, barefoot, listening to the birds in the morning sun. Like, that's pretty fantastic, And
Yeah.
there a lot of really simple things like that, like really taste that berry all the way. And there's something really magical about just off the vine berries, right? And like an explosion of amazement in your mouth. And are you free to enjoy something that simple?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Are you, when you backpacked, I just want to go back here for a minute. When you backpacked through Europe, did you have favorite places in Europe?
Oh, yeah. Well, let's see. I spent 8 months backpacking around Europe by myself when I was 18. Back in the days before cell phones. Like, I don't even know.
Wow, that
Like,
is
I don't even know
gutsy.
how I did it. Right? I have no idea how all that
I don't
happened.
know how you did it, thinking about it.
Definitely on faith. I loved Greece. Well, first of all, I was astonished at how much better the food was. Like in Italy,
Yeah.
like coming from New England and American food, and even though my mom's a pretty good cook, like I couldn't believe how good the food was in Italy and in Greece. The Greek peaches, oh my God, like so good. So I would say of all the places I went, I really being a foodie, I loved Italy and Greece. And
Yeah.
I love the ocean in Greece, the Greek islands.
Wow. I never got to Greece, but I did live in Europe for a few years, and Italy to me was the heart chakra of Europe. Would you
Yeah.
say yes?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So where do people find out about you? Where do they go?
Well, let's see. You can go to biofieldtuning.com. It's our primary website. You can find a practitioner if you want to receive a biofield tuning session. We have practitioners all over the world, and everyone does it over Zoom as well. We have a store. I make my own line of very high quality American made tuning forks. Not all tuning forks are created equal. There's a big difference between mine, which are curated sound therapy instruments, versus something cheap on Amazon. It's not the same animal at all. I have lots of recordings that you can listen to. They're less expensive than seeing a practitioner, and tried and true. Like lots of people have listened to these recordings and found them really helpful. There's a bunch of free ones so you can try before you buy. I've got these two books that are both on Audible as well, Training the Human Biofield and Electric Body, Electric Health. And I have a YouTube channel where I have lots of free sessions. I have a series called Sonic Sundays, where I think there's 28 tunings for free there. And the sort of the electric health philosophy, it's a good opportunity to learn about the whole concept of electric health there. And I'm on Instagram too, and we share a lot of interesting information on Instagram. So lots of places, lots of information, pretty deep rabbit hole with lots of branches, lots to discover here.
Yeah, I want to thank you for showing up to It's Rainmaking Time and making yourself available. I know that you're busy around the clock, training people, doing the work yourself, and manufacturing, selling, all of it. Are you traveling soon at all?
I'm
Are you
going
going to
away
be in
this weekend to the other thing I do besides tuning forks is vocal activation. I do a program called Sing the Body Electric with two
Oh my
Australian
God.
brothers named Isaac and Paul Corin. And we tone the 42 tones of the sonic anatomy. So my work isn't just about tuning forks from the outside, but also what you can do with your own voice from the inside. Incredibly vitalizing, fascinating work, and really fun. So I'm going to
That sounds
do
great.
that, yeah, live workshop this weekend. And then no, I actually am very blessed to have a pretty open summer this summer. So I'm hanging out with my kids and my grandbaby, and
Congratulations
enjoying
about
the
that
Vermont
too.
summer, which is very precious. So,
I
but
hear very
definitely
beautiful.
more travel coming up later in the year. I do a lot of live events. I do a lot of podcasts and summits and things like that. So
Yeah.
lots of
Thank you.
opportunities to connect. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Eileen. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Kim.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
I really appreciated your questions. They're unusual, and I appreciate your depth of knowledge and experience in the world as well very much.
Thank you. God bless you. It's rainmaking time.